again to drop some bombs, because it's been that last episode was one of my favourite episodes we've recorded, because there's been so much that you've been through and I haven't even addressed who it is, but I couldn't save it. I couldn't save the episode. I tried to get all the audio fixed, but it just didn't work. So we're back. James, welcome, brother.
Thank you,
James Ambrosini.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate you making the time back up. So, guys, before James shares, I know our chat's going to be even better than last week. We had a practice last week.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously
This session.
you're fresh back from Italy, where you were playing professional rugby. So now you're sort of classifying yourself as a former pro, but who knows? You may go back. You don't know. You never know.
The boots aren't hung up.
Yeah, they aren't officially hanging over the balcony yet.
Yeah.
You're a qualified sports scientist, personal trainer, and integrated nutrition health coach with a master's in mental coaching for peak performance in elite sport. So you've had 12 years traveling the globe, and I'm sure you've got a ton of stories, which I know you're going to share a few of them with us as a pro rugby player. And you've had a ton of adversity along the way, which blows my mind, especially which we'll talk about how you kept going after a few of the injuries that you had. Blows my mind, but it shows a lot of resilience and commitment to wanting to achieve success. And you've been living in Italy for the last 8 years, so you can speak Italian as well. I've seen you do it on the Instagram lives and all that sort of stuff. It's awesome to watch, and it makes me wish I spent more time learning a language. You've trained obviously yourself and others in strength and conditioning. That's sort of where you're sort of moving into now post football life, if you do hang up the boots for good, from all ranges, ranging from junior to elite athletes of all ages in all different sports, which is, you know, puts you very well rounded. You've learned from some of the best coaches in the world and had some great mentors that have guided you along the way. So I think even just from that brief introduction, you know, you've done some incredible things. You've reached the peak of your sport, which is rugby union. You've overcome a whole heap of adversity. You're now looking to give back from your own experiences, which is very cool. Like, to have the opportunity to learn from someone like you is incredible, but you still continue to have coaches and mentors guiding you forward. So, mate, appreciate you being on the show. Whatever I missed, give us a little bit more of a rundown of who James is, and you know, take us on the journey, because I know, you know, you've got some juicy stuff and some challenges that you've overcome, and there's a lot that the men who listen to this podcast can learn from.
Yeah, well, as you said, I've hit the nail on the head with that whole bite there, but 3 months into arriving back from Italy, it's been quite a journey over there. I was there for 8 years. I moved over when I was 21 years of age with my first professional contract, playing rugby union. Spent my childhood playing rugby out of Brisbane. I went to St. Francis College, so normal private school boy.
Private school. So am I, so I can't comment.
Yeah, we're in that stereotypical private
I went to a state primary school. Is that?
Oh, where did you go?
Highfield State School. I was a Toowoomba boy, yeah.
Yeah, so you're in between.
Yeah. Tried a bit of everything.
Yeah, so mate, I went to St. Lawrence's and out of school moved to Canberra to be a part of the Brumbies Academy.
Yeah.
And since then, I was playing rugby since then, so 12 years, and it's been quite a journey, both with ups and downs, lots of injuries and lots of good times as well. Met a lot of good mates, had a really good time as well, and now I'm transitioning into another chapter of my life, and I'm networking with really good people, and as you know, I contacted you 2 years ago, and we've been mates ever since, because you know, I resonate a lot with your story, that you know, you're a rugby player and you grew up with aspirations to play professional rugby, and you went over to France and you did your thing, and you've come back and you're doing what I potentially, you inspire me to do something similar, but in the same sort of field, maybe health and fitness, a little bit different, but same field in general. So
it's exciting. Like I'm very excited for you. I know you're excited for yourself as well with that next.
More excited now. Than playing rugby.
It's crazy, right?
This is way bigger now to serve people.
Yeah.
With all the experiences that I've gained over the past few years, and it's a humbling journey to start now at 29. So
mate, you got to start at some age, right? And I think
that's the thing with athletes. Like we have a certain time span, and there's that transition where you can you can kill the transition or you can be confused throughout it, and I'm trying my best to work through it, and I'm really, really excited.
I think
to come.
From speaking with you and knowing you for the last couple of years, like you've been, while you've been giving everything to football, to rugby, sorry, in the background you've been, being curious, right? You've been looking at what's next for you, which is exciting because you see it time and time again with professional athletes or just people who are at the pinnacle in any sport or endeavour. When they lose that, a part of their identity disappears, and you're walking around blindfolded, not knowing what's next. So it's good that I think you're curious through that whole process.
Yeah.
But take us back, man. So I know, like at 16, you had a meningitis. Like you had a few crazy setbacks in the go. Because you think about this, right? Like I was the same as you, wanted to be a professional athlete. I know a lot of lads who listen to this may want to be athletes, or we all have ambitions at some point in our life, and over time they get beaten out of us, whether it's through constant setbacks and you're like, I can't handle this defeat or rejection anymore, or life is, other things happen, right? So for you, obviously, then you had setback after setback, but you kept going. But take us back to sort of that first significant one when you were 16.
Oh yeah, so I was 16. About 3 or 4 days before going to New Year's in Noosa with all the boys. They're all at my house, and we had a little gathering, so to say, back in the day.
Gathering.
The gatherings. So,
gatherings with the boys.
The boys, and then we had a few lasses come over, and basically I had started getting really bad headaches, and I said to my best mate, I was like, mate, you carry on with this party here, because Mum and Dad were down on the Gold Coast, and we had the party. We had the party at my house in Brisbane, and back then that was pretty much the house to go to.
To go to the party house.
Yeah, because I was the only child at that stage. My two sisters left when I was 12 years of age. So
get out of here.
So the 5 years after that, 12 to 17, were really good.
Freedom, mate, freedom.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to that, I said, mate, I've got to go upstairs. I just had a really big headache, and went to bed, woke up the next day, and I couldn't move my neck or anything like that, and I'm there just saying to my mate, can you please call your mum and get her to come here and take me to the hospital because I can't move. So
what was going through your mind at that point in time? Do you remember?
Oh man, I was just shocked. I just couldn't believe, I was trying to move, and it's like getting hit with a baseball bat in the head. So I had viral meningitis, and it was a big shock to my body and my immune system, and basically, in short, I ended up crawling to the phone because my mate was a bit hungover.
It's like the scene of Wolf of Wall Street where he's on the Quaaludes and he's walking down the stairs. That's how the night went.
That was me, mate. I was crawling like that and just got the phone, and I was like, my daughter was her name. I was like, lads, can you please come pick me up? I've got a raging headache. It just feels like I've been hit in the head with a baseball bat. And she came straight away, went to the doctors. They misdiagnosed me because we had been down surfing all week and jet skiing and stuff like that, and they misdiagnosed it with like whiplash and stuff like that. And so they went back home and started vomiting and all this stuff, and I'm just like, nah, something's up. So went back to the hospital. We first went to just like shopping village, the doctors, and then came into Marta here, and the second time around they diagnosed me straight away with viral meningitis, and I had to have lumbar puncture, and I was there for...
You had to have a lumbar puncture?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I was isolated for like a week and a bit, like just in the
just prepping you for coronavirus isolation.
In that room, just isolated away, and I remember I didn't really know what a lumbar puncture was until it was in my back, and I watched. This is a pretty big deal. Like I remember my best friend's mum was staring and like crying at the severity of what it was, and I didn't realise. 16,
right? You're supposed to be like
I didn't have no
becoming a man and strong and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I had no idea what was going on, and just all happened like that. And then a week and a half out of hospital, and they were like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't play sport for the next 3 to 6 months." And that was recommended, but it was my last last year of school. So I was like,
I'm
feeling
first
good.
15 maybe.
On the job, I'm gonna play first 15 rugby. Like that was my dream since like 10 years of age. Since going to Lauries, you know, you want to play for the black jersey. So it was like, yeah, okay, this is not happening. So 2 weeks after I was playing for first 11, like just in the Christian Brothers pre-friendlies tournament.
How do you feel at that point in time? Were you just?
I was just lethargic, and but still just kicking on, trying to get past it. And then I felt pretty good like a few weeks after. Like, yeah, I felt fine after. I didn't understand the risks and consequences of getting into sport.
I still don't know what were some of the risks or consequences of.
I think you could just come back. Or,
mid game.
Yeah, so that was that. But then having like the best momentum type of year for my sport in rugby, and won the undefeated first 11 and first 15, and for that's like pinnacle of schoolboy sport, and ended up playing for Australian schoolboys and was starting 10 in New Zealand, where we beat New Zealand for the first time in 30 years in the Trans-Tasman Cup over there in New Plymouth. So
that is unreal. What was that like?
Was the score, I still remember it, and we beat our rivals Ashgrove and
Australia.
And it ended up being like just a
phenomenal year
for me, and that set me up to then go into Brumbies Academy. I wanted to go into Reds, really wanted to be picked in Reds, but John Ernst, he's a year older than me, and he got picked for the role in the academy at Reds in 2009, which was my first year out of school. And so I ended up like, I think we had graduation week. I missed graduation week and went down to trial, and ended up fortunately getting the gig in the academy, and was there for 3 years after that. So that was my first setback, but then it ended up leading to a really good year.
How do you mentally prepare for that? Like obviously, if you're getting back to something 2 weeks later, and after you're told not to do it for like 3 to 6 months, were you just like, nah? This is what I've waited my whole life for.
Yeah, it was not much thinking. I was like, it's not happening. I'm just going to do it. And then, if it comes, it comes. If not, all good, happy days. So,
at least you nearly tried.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, that was pretty stupid thinking about it, but at the same time, ended up working out pretty well.
Okay, so talk us through the Brumbies. Like that's once again, pretty exciting.
That was like an apprenticeship to my rugby. I wasn't very happy in terms of the place because I had such a good friend and family base here in Brisbane. I left like 1 week after schoolies, so I was put in the fat club straight after school.
Straight after, what this boy's been doing.
We had a good time. The boys on Nazi goring and just beers all week at schoolies and having good fun. And they put me in to Fat Club. Was running a lot. 6 months of playing, like 17 and a half at that stage, and that's when my next injury came, which was a dislocated right shoulder and AC joint like dislocation or grade 2 AC joint tear. And that was that was a start of a bit of a downward spiral in terms of this is real life, like playing with big boys now. So,
play with the men.
So my body and mind wasn't ready for the pressure, physically and mentally, and also being away from home, I cracked probably under pressure in terms of not being able to handle and control what life was throwing at me at that age. So that was my first test from a boy to man.
How would you have prepared differently if you could go like with hindsight and experience because I'm sure there's a lot of young fellas listening to this with similar goals and ambitions of the stuff that you've achieved. How would you prep better?
Pretty simple. I would just build a better support base around me and communicate better with my family about where my problems are, what's concerning me, what's going good. Just general communication with your family I think is really positive, and good quality mates, and sticking to your truth and what you want to do from the beginning, and build more of resilience for yourself with that, and not care too much about what other people think of you. If you don't want to go and drink, you don't go and drink, and the people that will say, okay, yeah, you're a wanker for not going to drink, or you're a fag.
Yeah.
Well, they're not your mates, so like you can learn at an earlier age. I'd suggest practicing that now.
Yeah, 100%.
Understanding that these guys aren't going to be there forever. Those guys that are calling you a faggot for not going to drink with them.
It's crazy, mate. Like even most of the guys I went to school with, I don't speak to many of them anymore. But at the time when you're in that moment,
you're so caught up in that group, the boys, just the boys.
Yeah.
And I was wanted to be a part of the group, and at that age you do. So that's cool to do it, but maybe in moderation.
Or just understand it's not the be all. Which once again, I think it's lived experience which shapes a lot of us. But coming back from that injury, like what was the process for that, and was the goal still the same?
Yeah, the goal was still the same. I was still kicking on and rehabbing every morning. I'd drive to the Brumbies physio and would do rehab from like 7 till 8 in the morning, and then I'd do my training, go to uni, and then come back and do training, and I was just in a robotic way of physically healing myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, not much work on my mind at that point. I didn't understand why this was happening to me, why I was getting injured, what was happening. I wasn't questioning on a deeper level what's going on, whether or not I should put more investment into my relationships with people around me, and not bottle it all up, and not it's better to talk with someone if you are struggling with this injury as well, and not just keep it all to yourself and try and be a man about it.
100%.
So
it's important to learn those skills, because if you're playing a contact sport, and especially like you said at the level that you were playing at, fairly high chance that you're going to get injured. So you need to have the tools and strategies and support networks in place for when and if it happens.
Absolutely, and we don't get taught that. The academy, no one is in that mental health space. We had a psychologist, but that was for the top team.
Oh really? So
they did a little bit of work, and it was Sue Crawford. She was really, really good for me, but not as detailed for the academy, which probably they should have their own helper.
Yeah.
A guy like you, or a psychologist, whatever you want to call it, mental
coach. Can you
coach.
call the Brumbies and tell them they need me?
Mate, honestly, I would definitely recommend that. And I think that is important for kids coming out of school as well, because they've also got a lot of pressure on themselves coming, being a big dog or whatever at school, and then going to the real world, it's completely different. So
100%.
Also balancing the kid out.
Definitely. And how long did it take you to get back on the field?
6 months. So it was basically the season was over. So we had another 3 months, and then I was into pre-season again. So I'd say 6 months or so. Yeah. And I was back into it, and that was it was my second year out of school. So I was 19, and I got another injury to my. I think I came back actually that same year, but then I did syndesmosis in my right ankle. And the same first year out of school, so I had 2 injuries. And
had you had any injuries previously?
No, other than the viral meningitis, all throughout my childhood, there was no injuries. I broke my right ankle when I was 15 at camp. The camp instructor.
Bullshit.
We played tackle, and we were gonna sue him. I was like, nah. My mates were like, you should sue him. But we was a Kiwi.
Yeah.
And I intercepted the ball, and he hunted me down from behind. He grabbed onto me
Really?
and broke my ankle 1 week before under 15's national championship, where I was playing for Med East, and that was the first representative.
Yeah.
And that actually gave me the drive to really come back next year. So I was kind of happy that a camp instructor that's 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
My mates started a fight with him and everything at camp, and I was finished camp. It was the first hour of being at school camp, and I was just like, sweet Jimmy, you done well there.
Got out of it. Yes.
Yeah, got out of that, and I was excited. But anyway, that was also gave me the drive to them, because I saw the boys succeed and play Queensland 15s, and I was like, wow. So then, year after, I ended up playing 16s and 17s. But anyway, going into injuries, two injuries the first year, and then came back and just had a run of injuries. I broke my hand 3 times in the space of a year and a half, and the first one was at under 20s trials when I was a year younger.
Yep.
And Matt Timmer was the starting 10.
So that was that under 20s, like
20s.
Australian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under 20s Australian team where we were at AAS, and the first trial was there, and we had the first day, the last session of the first day. You know, I've gone to go around with this really big dude, and I've gone to palm him, and I spiral fractured my hand. The third minute.
Jeez, you must have palmed him hard.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was probably a bit fragile. I was a bit fragile at that age, so yeah, palmed him, and then like hit his neck and my finger. Just like instead of breaking my fingers, it broke my third metacarpal, and so I had metal and 7 screws. And ended up coming back with the screws and plate inside, and 3 weeks after coming back, I've gone to tackle a guy with my teammate, and his knee hit the same fingers and went through the same crack and bent the metal, and also broke the 4th metacarpal. So I had to do plate, 7 screws on the 3rd metacarpal, 6 screws on the 4th, and I had bionic hand, like.
Bloody
So,
hell, mate.
I was going
How
off in the airport.
detectives. What was that like though? So obviously the day for the first one was the trials for the Australian under 20s.
Yeah.
How was your mindset after?
I was cooked. So I was.
Because that's a huge deal, right?
Yeah, I was absolutely distraught because it was my first chance to show on a more world level if I was to make it. So basically, Matt Timmer would have been starting 10, and they were speaking about developing another 10 for the next year.
Yeah.
So I was a year younger, so it would have been ideal to be reserve. But then ended up being Joe Lance, I think, again. So. John is a really good player too anyway. So that happened, and then I came back and was playing for Brumbies A and did it the second time, and then that was when I was 20. So came back and then did it, and then I rehabbed it again for another 8 to 10 weeks. Played for Aussie Unis against NZ Unis, and it was the last trial for that year for Aussie under 20s.
Yeah.
And
so they obviously have scouts at all of these games and everything.
Yeah. Anthony Eddy was the scout at that game, and basically they had informed me and my manager that they were still looking for a 10, and that I was in contention, and they wanted to see me play and decide. So played that game and came off the field, and Anthony Eddy was on the field, and he said, "Congratulations, you've made Aussie under 20s."
How was that?
It was the best feeling ever.
Did that beat the Australian schoolboys? Everything was that
just everything I went through those few years of out of school doing the apprenticeship, but really struggling through it. With all the injuries and being away from home, but staying in it anyway, and to get that was like, this is another opportunity. I haven't made it, but this is another opportunity.
What made you stay in it? Like after all the that's a few significant setbacks and also crucial times, right? Like there's a difference between breaking your hand in pre-season as opposed to getting ready to try out for the under 20s or those other playing for the Brumbies A's. There's different sort of.
Yeah, man. What made me stay in it? It's a good question. I don't know. Those guys saying to me, I can remember one of the props for Brumbies, he just tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "Mate, maybe you need to have a look at, just asking what's happening and asking yourself." And I was at that age, I was like, "Oh no, fuck it, man. Shut up. Shut up, I'm gonna kick on. Just shut up, bro. I don't give a fuck what you say." Just so driven, so purpose driven for this one thing, just to play rugby professionally. And I had that dream since I was 14. And, my dad was very, very, very driven to help me. Like he was a very supportive dad, and so was my mum in a different way. But he was always the coach of everything, and he would just always say, "Mate, this is your apprenticeship. Sometimes you got to go through a bit of suffering to come out on top, and the cream will rise to the top eventually. So just stay in it, stay in the game, and things are gonna look better in the future for you. I know you're in pain, I know you're suffering a lot, but this is all a part of becoming a man. And as a boy coming out of school, these lessons give you the strength to turn into a man and let them be there for you and not against you. So that was my opportunity to show on the world stage, and then obviously another thing happened where again I broke the same hand.
This is 3
5 days.
times with the same hand.
Yeah, 3 times, man. 3 fucking times. Where it was 5 days before the World Cup, and we were in Italy, and I was playing a warm up match against Scotland, and the next day we did contact. So bodies were a little bit sore, and I've gone to clean out, and again the hand was just, I was just so mentally weak.
Yeah.
I was playing for Australian under-20s, and I was pretty mentally weak in the fact that I knew I had 2 metal bars in my hand, and I was the 10, and I couldn't even open my hand like properly, like it was like that, and here I am like playing for my nation.
Yeah.
I was just so forced and driven to do it, so like, you know, forceful about making this dream a reality.
Yeah.
You know, it came to a point where I was like, just stop forcing it, man. You're not asking yourself the right questions around what you're doing. You're not even trying other things. You just want this one thing.
Do you feel though you would have got the level of success that you had if you weren't obsessed about it?
Probably, yeah, in a different way.
Yeah.
Or success in a different area.
Yeah.
Like maybe work in a different area, like where I am now.
Yeah.
Maybe I was brought here to help people.
Yeah.
In a different way, or like if I had stayed in Australia and not forced to go to Italy straight away,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, at the same time I got the contract for Italy, Aussie Sevens were calling and stuff like that, so
Yeah.
maybe I could have got a few tournaments in Aussie Sevens and gone
Yeah.
from there or whatever. But yeah, I was definitely too forceful at that age,
Yeah.
and that's what brought me to be completely out of control, because I wanted to control every situation. And with your hands, if you break your hands, it means you're out of control. So if you get a book called The Secret Language of Your Body, I think it's by Ina Siegel. So that's one of
Secret Language of
Secret
Your
Language.
Body. I've never heard of it.
It's an amazing book where I've pretty much used it for the past 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
From my first mentor that gave me the book. With all injuries you have in your life or any sicknesses, it's got some sort of relation mentally to you. So it's a yellow book, yellow title.
I was just writing it down.
Ah.
I'll bring it up there.
Yeah, so that book, basically, in short, from what I can remember, when you injure your hand,
Yellow in the Seagull.
amazing book, I recommend it.
Buy it on Booktopia. Good 10. Booktopia now.
Yeah. Mate, get that book. You're gonna love
The Essential Guide to Health and Wellness.
it.
Yeah.
So when your knees, if you injure your knee, it's related to your ego.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
It just
Think about
pieces
it.
it all together.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating though as well because
It's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
if you read the book, like,
I think
It's pretty
when you read it and you hear from someone else talking about it, because I know as blokes like yourself and coming from that rugby background, you hear stuff like that and you're like,
what the
this
fuck is
guy
this?
has ripped way too many bombs or there's something weird's going on.
Yeah.
But then when you actually start, if you at least be open-minded to it,
Yeah.
it may, like there's so many things that make so much sense, and obviously you can take what you want and
Well,
leave the rest.
yeah.
But if anything can positively impact your life and it at least makes you curious about, like you
Yeah.
said, the knee represents your ego or something.
Yeah.
So, well, maybe at least check it out.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You prove that the book's bullshit, or you find out your ego is damaging your life.
No, I recommend whoever wants to get it, slide into my DMs later and say, yeah, you're spot on here.
Yeah.
Because I believe 100% in that. And mate, I went through a lot of suffering and my body is my job.
Yeah.
So this book was recommended by one of my mentors, and I thought, okay, yeah, give it a go. And it helped me clear a lot of emotion, negative emotions that was going on in my mind, to then not be injured anymore. Like, I did a lot of work in the past 8 to 10 years where I was no longer injured, and that's because I was asking deeper questions about, what the fuck is happening, why am I being so forceful, what's going on. So yeah.
I'm so excited though as well, because stereotypically men, when not supposed to sort of ask these emotional questions or get in tune with our intuition and all this sort of stuff, like I grew up thinking that was just ridiculous, or that man was soft or a pussy or whatever.
Oh, there's a big stigma.
Yeah, for doing, definitely. But now you see people like yourself, Craig Cooper, James O'Connor, like for those who don't know, they all play for the Wallabies or played for the Wallabies. But these people that I grew up aspiring to be like as well, and you see them still super talented, but they're turning more inward and doing a lot more inner work, and they're openly talking about it and posting about it, which I think is awesome, because for those next, and the people that you're looking to work with, which we'll talk about shortly, and the younger people, but even the older rugby nuts or hardened men are going to start at least going, well, maybe there is something in it.
100%. You know, like, made a lot of mistakes that I wish I had have known back when I was 18 years of age. So yeah, there's a lot of reverse engineering that I want to do to help kids mentally.
But even the start like this, like just having conversations, and for those listening at home, like, have conversations about money, have conversations about sex, have conversations about fucking mental health and emotional health, and share with your kids if you fight with your wife or husband or whatever, and tell them why it happened or how you overcame it, because that's real life. I never knew how to fucking resolve conflict or do any of that sort of stuff. Like, not a chance. I just thought you'd walk away for a day. You'd walk away for a day, and the next day you come back and it's fine. It's all patched up. So it's important for those who are wanting to give back or have I guess influence on the next generation or just other people. Start talking about what's really going on. Like the fact that you're on here now is exactly that. It's leadership through personal experience.
Yeah, the person that's probably listening to the one that is in the position of suffering or concern about their life, I'd probably just recommend, even if it's between the boys, to ask open-ended questions for them to talk to you. So don't just get to the point and be like, oh no, you're all sweet, like, or ask why it's happening to help them as well. So the question is not yes or no, it's a long-ended response rather than just yes or no.
100%. And so after, obviously, you bring it back to that breaking your hand again in Scotland in the trial match, what unfolded next?
Again, like, so it just goes in ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Like, I was in the worst state mentally. I was cooked when the doctor said to me, it was in Italy, for one, and we were in the town hospital, and in broken English he was like, your hand is broken, you've got to get on a plane and go. I was like, okay, thanks mate. You don't understand what was at stake. And, he just said it so blunt, and I was like, there's obviously no emotion being needed, but it was kind of like, oh fuck, I'm cooked mentally. It's my third time. I have to go into surgery again, and then I have to go through rehab again, and then I have to take everything out after that. So there's 4 surgeries on one hand, and that's when I really realised, I'm mentally in a bad state. So I went into serious depression, and had suicidal thoughts, because you put all your energy into the one thing out of school. And I came back home, and all my mates were, they were 3rd, 4th year uni, and they were talking about cadetships, they were talking about getting sweet jobs, money and all that, and I was still like struggling. Like, luckily, I had a bit of support, but and I'd do uni and rugby, but when you're in academy, you're getting peanuts. Like, you were there just to make up the numbers, basically, in the academy. It's not a full-time, like, it's a full-time gig, but you're getting paid 0 to 20 max. Plus you got to do uni or work or be a tradie or whatever, and you're tired. So it's not the dream like what everyone thinks it is. 100%. And basically, I was cooked mentally, and but the day after I broke my hand, still in Italy, the CEO of Benetton offered for me to come and do rehab in Italy for Benetton Treviso, so come sign my first contract. Because I saw that I was half Italian, and they wanted to offer me a contract, and I said no.
It's a huge thing considering you've grown up always wanting to just have that professional contract to say no. Why did you say no?
I was still in the matrix of wanting to play in Australia, obviously, in the Super Rugby team. So I came back. So I said no. I said, if you want, like, maybe in a year's time, we can get back in contact. And he was already in contact with me, talking and stuff. I didn't go into detail that I was mentally, I didn't want that. So what happened was I went home went into a spiral state of just depression and went away from the game obviously and didn't know my identity. My identity was gone. So I was known as a party boy, party job, you know. And I came back to my hometown, Brizzy, and they were like, "Where's party boy Jen? Well, he's always got a smile.
Yeah.
He's always the fucking one, the one on the party." And I was just there and they're like, "I don't want to drink.
Done.
I know right now if I drink, I'm gonna go into a bigger spiral. I'm already depressed and you guys don't know and I'm not telling anyone."
Why didn't you tell anyone?
Mate, at that stage, I told 2 or 3 of my best mates, and they both said, all of them said that they're gonna fucking hit me. There was no, how can I say it? It was still a big stigma.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, "Oh, fucking get out of it, mate." I remember
Snap
telling one
out
of
of
my
it.
mates, I remember telling one of my mates at his home, in his home, one of my best mates, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fucking hit you in the head." I was like, "Oh, bro, that's like, alright." Like, they didn't know, and he ended up coming back and apologising all now.
Yeah.
Like literally last year. He's still one of my best mates, and he was like, "Mate, fucking all this mental health that's going on now, like I'm so sorry that I was like that."
Yeah.
And another one of the boys as well. But I had another 2 other mates that were really supportive, and then just my family. So I went on like antidepressants and I was on Xanax for like a week, and I was like, "Okay, fuck, I'm gonna do this." I was like, "Fuck." It was like 1 or 2 weeks, and yeah, I just realised that I have to pull myself out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think it was like 2 or 3 months depression, whatever. It wasn't serious, but it came really quick. Like it hit really quick. So I think that was the lead up for the 2 years in Canada as well. So it was, I think it was more than 2 or 3 months. Wasn't very happy there. So ended up pulling myself out and doing an internship because I was still doing sports science from as soon as I went to Canberra. Ended up doing an internship at Acceleration Enhancing Sports Performance, which is where I used to train from 15 years of age.
Yeah.
Stu Briggs and Joe Barrett at that stage were the directors. Stu Briggs was the manager. He saw me down still at the internship, and I wanted to become obviously a S&C performance coach for them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was had to rebuild my hand and my body.
And were you still set on playing then? Like
Yeah,
Still
still set eventually, but I was still not good physically, and I think it was like October, November, so I knew the season had finished and that it's going to get into off-season, pre-season now, but I wasn't linked with the team just yet, so I ended up playing for UQ the next year and was in the Reds training squad and ended up playing for Aussie Academy and all that, but before that it was all thanks to Stu and Joe Stu and Jim, Jim Barrett, who ended up like just mentoring me through that time.
Yeah.
It was like the first thing you need to do is sort out your body again. Mate, you're an athlete, you need to look after yourself.
Yeah.
And we need to get you back into your best fucking shape so that you're going to kill it. And when I decided to do that, to fix up my body, everything else ended up just coming back to me.
Yeah.
And that was like, again, a really great year. Like, so it was.
So was that
Yeah,
2011, 2012 or something?
Yeah, 2011, 2012, so 2008, my school year was a really good year, and then 2 or 3 years shit. And then 2011, 2012 hit where I was back home, I had support systems in place. So I didn't learn at an early age to support myself. And that's
Most people don't.
Yeah, that was the problem. I got pushed out of home pretty early, and just everything came overwhelming, couldn't control it. And so what happened, I ended up bringing my body back to its best shape ever, and thanks to them, and did 6 months of playing here. And in that time we were talking with Vittorio Minardi, who is the CEO of Benetton, and he offered a contract that was it was something that I never dreamed of. So.
And did you have any interest from other clubs at that point, or was it just Benetton?
I had interest from Zebra, which is the other Italian club, but there was no interest in Super Rugby. Yeah. The only interest
Did you reach out to Super Rugby or anything?
My manager reached out a little bit, but he was more keen. So with managers, they will push you wherever the money is. So they weren't offering me anything. And said rugby can be like a training contract.
Yeah.
Because I was training for the Reds, but yeah, not getting paid, and Aussie Sevens knocked on the door as I signed for Benetton. So that's when I was like, oh, now you're coming to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was only 20.
Yeah.
So I was very impatient still, but it was because, so I just took that contract.
Yeah.
And maybe in hindsight I could have stayed a little bit more in the game, but I think I'd been patient enough.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to check in now. I'm going to go with the first contract, and I'm going to take this because they're the first people who give me a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And thanks, I spent 4 years at Benetton, and yeah, it was.
How was it over there? What was it like? Especially moving to a country. Did you speak Italian at
I
that
don't
point?
speak Italian. My dad was born there and everything, and he never taught me Italian. I never took me to Italian classes. And like I was like, oh, thanks, mate. Like I'm over here.
Appreciate it. Do you and your dad speak Italian now?
Yeah, we do. He speaks like broken Italian dialect from his region, which is Abruzzo, which is like on the east coast of Rome. So Rome's west coast. So go east all the way to Abruzzo, and that's where he's from. And I got over there and didn't speak a word. And I'm like, oh, you didn't what the fuck?
Yeah.
Should be talking Italian. I was like, oh fuck.
G'day, mate.
Yeah, look at that, mate. Oh, I couldn't even understand the Italian accent as well. So I had to change my accent for them to understand me at the beginning. Was the Italian?
Crazy.
And then, we just hung a lot with the foreigners. And then after year 2 or year 3, that's when I started to
Feel comfortable,
feel more comfortable.
Were you doing lessons and stuff at that time?
Yeah, we did a bit of lessons, a few lessons and stuff like that, like the first year, and then it's kind of like, because the grammar is pretty hard. It's not easy to learn at all. So, but after 8 years, if you don't speak it by then, you're a bit of a rattler.
You would get shoved out.
Yeah.
What did you sort of learn about yourself through that process? Obviously, you come back from all those injuries, so definitely a resilient individual. But then moving overseas, not speaking the language, being away from your family, like what was that whole experience like for you?
It was good and bad. Like good because I was in Europe and having the time of my life, 21 years of age.
It would have been fun.
Traveling all through Europe playing, I was a young guy still there obviously, and at that stage Benetton was kind of like Broncos this year, so it was quite a toxic environment.
Yeah.
And they would just have to put on the oldest team, so I was playing a lot from the bench or not playing the first year. So I had to buy my time and be patient again. To learn to be patient. And that was properly to learn to be patient and being like healthy. Not being patient and injured, it was patient and healthy. And I had a good relationship. I had a girlfriend. After 6 months I met an Italian girl, and she was a rock for me, and I understood like okay, I've got to have relationships around me to keep me up and keep me positive, and also be positive for the relationships around me as well. So she was really good for that. So I still had mental health issues that I needed to resolve. And I think that was seeping through not being as confident on the field, because I'd go on the field after not playing that much, and I lacked a bit of confidence or self-worth and value for myself and self-trust, because at 10 you need to be playing every week, but we couldn't play every week if you weren't in the 23. So I remember my first game was at Welford Road against Leicester Tigers, and Franco Smith, the coach at the time, he gave me my first opportunity there, and cracked, and